Okay, I'm Sebastian Tan. I'm the Group Managing Director for Shooting Gallery Asia. Shooting Gallery Asia just turned 31 this year. So we started with one company in Singapore back in 1987, and we've grown to be in multiple countries. We have presence in 10 countries now. So basically, I'm more involved in the Singapore and China operation. We have a studio facility in Shanghai since 2010, and China market has been very, very busy for us, and we're looking forward to contribute, right? And also looking forward to be involved in communication, Creative Plus Asia.
CA+, Sebastian.
CA Plus Asia. CA Plus, okay.
Oh, that's funny. So now we're going to ask, so tell me a little bit more about how you're going in China. So particularly on the stills side of things or on the print side of things. I know you're doing very well in the video and film area. How's it going in the print area?
I think in the print area, I think across all markets, I think we have seen the pie getting smaller due to the fact that motion is taking more center stage, right? And although we are not totally quiet in China, it is still very much a moving images market. So the moving images side is really very busy. The print side can be a lot busier, but still is not as busy as we would have liked.
Right. Are you finding that the stills photographers are moving more so into becoming videographers or DOPs or directors?
I think we have to be realistic that the market has changed to such a landscape that we have to be versatile. We cannot call ourselves as totally photographers and only doing stills. I think it's good to have that opportunity. And in fact, I think to me, I like the challenge to be able to do not only stills, but also to do motion as well. As we move along, I think it's inevitable that the younger generations will be able to do both, right? Whether it's motion, whether it's stills, or whether to direct, or to just shoot in the context of whether it's for stills or motion. Because at the end of the day, the whole process of putting the job together is similar. It's only the end whether we're going to use it for stills or we're going to use it as a motion. We cannot be telling story in one frame now. We have to also be versatile enough to tell our stories in 25 frames per second.
Yeah, that's a great answer. So you finding...
To answer your question, I do see that more photographers are taking up the challenge and also incorporating motion into their workflow. But I think it's definitely much easier for the younger generation because they have been used to doing both medium. And perhaps the older generation of photographers may still be unwilling to evolve or to go into motion. But I think it will evolve to a stage whereby everybody should be versatile enough to do either motion or stills.
Yeah, right. So you're finding the older photographers are having a harder time transitioning across?
Yes, and maybe perhaps the desire to maintain the purity of photography, but the reality of how the market has changed in all different medium, whereby we look at even the print medium, your screen can be as thick as only a credit card, the thickness of a credit card. They have the option to use a still image or a moving image. Obviously, then the pie for still photography will be diluted tremendously. So we should be versatile and look forward to embrace motion, not only stills.
Right. So when you see a folio now from a photographer that might be coming through, do you want to see both print images, still images, and moving images?
For me, I've always encouraged and advocate of being versatile.
Yeah.
I respect also the fact that some photographers prefer the purest form of photography by only only doing stills.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem looking at whether it's stills or whether it's motion. At the end of the day, I'm just looking forward to good imagery.
Mm, mm. On that point, what personally, what's the kind of photography that you like looking at?
I like I said earlier, I love good imagery. So I'm not very genre specific.
Yeah.
Because where we come from, basically in Singapore, it's such a small market. We do basically all genres of photography. Although in the past when I started, we do in fact even annual reports and industrial photography. But as we grow to be more specialized and focus on commercial photography to the point where we don't get the chance to do any industrial or even annual reports photography. But at the end of the day, to me, so long as an image is interesting and is something that will excite me, it doesn't matter whether it's a shot that is an industrial shot, whether it's a wedding shot, or whether it's a commercial shot. But I look forward to beautiful imagery, well executed, well framed and composed. I think that's the beauty of what photography is all about.
Yeah. I'm with you on that one. I think also with with your background and your photography, which was so technically based and and it was always about the beauty of the image. Are you also fascinated by the technical side?
I think the technical aspects of photography has changed tremendously when we started to go into the digital platform. I think the saddest thing for me is the fact that due to technology, the craft of creating an image has been diluted tremendously over the years, whereby people do not appreciate or respect the craft of doing it in camera. That is something that I think coming from the analog background, we really feel very, very disheartened by the fact that people do not take enough effort to craft the image before they go into thinking about post-production work digitally. Of course, I think photographers who were from the analog background of shooting on film, technically, you need to have excellence in capability of skills as well as knowledge, technical knowledge, to be able to execute everything in the camera. But the advantage of the younger generation, whereby they're not used to that workflow, they can create a lot of things through the post-production process. But I think people should always remember that garbage in, garbage out, you need to at least get good imagery so that you can enhance it and move forward, rather than fix it in post and do everything and just capture image without thought. Angles, direction, lens, focal length, focal length, and lighting, and just try to put everything together in post, right? And it will not look as what it should be, because at the end of the day, unless you're creating a surreal image, you must understand all the various aspects, the principles of photography, and all the basic standards of light and shadows before you can even put it together nicely and for it to look real and authentic, as though it has not been assembled digitally, but it has been all within the camera.
That's well answered. And I suppose the changing times and going back to moving into video itself. I suppose you need to be able to understand, if you're a photographer moving into video, you also need to know the technical analog sides of film as well. So being able to capture, probably more so with film, because you haven't got as good at After Effects or as easy access to good After Effects as what you do have with still photography.
Yep. I think the advantage of a photographer to take up film, I think the photographer tend to have a more focused eye, a more detailed eye for motion, because the tendency of most filmmakers without the still photography background, you tend to look as moving images in 25 frames rather than single frame. The advantage of the photographer coming in, viewing every image in the single frame in 25 frames, every single frame is how you see it as a nicely composed image. Obviously, you have a better opportunity to create beautiful imagery, because you're telling stories in 25 frames, but every frame is nicely. So I think that is the advantage of the photographer, still with a photography background. So we do have a lot of directors and even director of photography who may not have the stills background, but you see that they have a lot of affinity to doing stills in their own spare time, in their own time, because they appreciate the value of how the still photographer look at images, composition and lighting. So that translates to a lot better images when you put it in motion.
That's great. Now, a bit of a fun question for you. Tell me about, and I know that you haven't been working as producing on many shots lately, but tell me of the last really enjoyable shoot that you worked on.
Wow, that may be history.
Or that might be an enjoyable shoot that happened at the studio, or an enjoyable shoot that your company did.
No, I think a lot of times is how we prepare ourselves. I think some shoots can be very, very tough, but if we approach it with a very positive attitude to enjoy in a shoot, I think every shoot can be a pleasure. Of course, you know, if you don't look forward to the shoot, then I think it's a problem. But I think the bigger satisfaction is always going through a lot of pain over the shoot, but then the end result gives you this satisfaction to say it's worth all the nightmares that you have gone through. Total satisfaction. Say, okay, let's go for the next one. Right. I think there are a lot of shoots that we've gone through that we just put it in a situation whereby if we approach the shoot and prepare the shoot well enough, every shoot is a pleasure.
Yeah, I'll add to that. In fact, that when young photographers come through, I usually tell them that 80 to 90% of the work is done before the shoot. And,
exactly.
And that's where you do the real hard work. And the shoot is what's automatic to you. That should be the fun, simple thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that's really pertinent. That's great.
It's so important to prep well and make sure that all the contingencies are taken into consideration. Then the shoot will be just fun. Everybody will just, you know, have a lot of fun because everything is planned for, everything is factored in. There's no real pressure at all. And should that way, should be a pleasure. Should be fun.
It's true, and you get that feeling from the image, don't you? Then
yes, definitely.
That
because
more effortless.
You will definitely come out with a lot better imagery if you don't have issues or hurdles in the course or the production of the shoot itself. So you can be more focused to create images without having to address all the problems or issues not planned for, not factored for. Things are not ready. You just make do with what you can get or what you do. Sometimes it can be a blessing, but most times it's not.
Oh, that's funny. Well, that's all the questions I have for you today. So let's finish up this formal piece. I'll turn off the recording now, Sebastian.
All right.